Hi, Fran. How are you, friend? Happy Saturday. I'm so glad you're here. I can always count on you. I hope you're doing good. How's the wind there, Fran? Did you guys get a bunch of wind? We'll talk about that. I only posted it on the community post page, so we'll see who comes in. Thank you. My glasses are, I have my Irish green headband in and my Rachel and Zoe um, sweater. So, can you hear me okay, Fran? Let me know. Hi, happy Saturday. Thank you for coming in. I hope you've had a great, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. Very windy and cold. Hi, Tina. How are you? Happy Saturday, friend. Fran, be careful when you go out that your wig doesn't fly off. You should have seen it here yesterday. It was craziness. Francesca would be having a field day outside. Can you hear me okay, Fran? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. I have my tea right here. I turned off the Duraflame. Buddy was having a nice little snooze in front of the Duraflame before we came on, but I told him, I said, you got to go, buddy. So Fran, Tina, you could only imagine what the wind is like where Fran is because she's in the city, right? In the city. So in between the buildings is probably like a wind tunnel, like worse than we had yesterday, Tina. Right? Could you imagine our hair? It would have been like crazy like this. Of course, that's what my hair looked like going through the parking lots yesterday. It was a madhouse. It was. I should have worn a croissant yesterday, Fran. I didn't. I let my hair down like this. And it was crazy. Well, it actually looked fabulous. It looked like, I know, right? I know, Tina. I mean, my hair never looked so full in its life, Fran. It was like out like this. It looked like it was the 70s all over again, Fran. Oh, third, yeah, right? At least you're not in one of those big skyscrapers, Fran. You know what I've heard, Fran? I've heard that when it gets windy, they'll go like this. The skyscrapers in New York City will go like this as when it's windy. They're built to kind of sway back and forth. Yeah, right. Tina, let's go back to the 70s before the Aquanet became a big thing. Remember Farrah Fawcett, right? And remember Jacqueline Smith back in the day with Charlie's Angels? She had really nice hair back in the day too, didn't she? Jacqueline Smith. Is that who I'm thinking of? Yes, because it was Kate Jackson, Jacqueline Smith, and Farrah Fawcett. They were the Charlie's Angels, right? You didn't need Aquanet. Yeah, right, Fran? Not until the 80s. That's when the Aquanet came in. Like mid 80s, maybe. I think it was like right after I graduated high schools. We used Aquanet when I was in high school and stuff, but I don't think we did like the stand-up bangs and stuff. I think that was right after I graduated high school. That's when that like came in. So it was like mid 80s to late early 90s maybe. Because I don't remember. Maybe I do. I always had a Dorothy Hamill haircut when I was in high school. So I didn't have long hair or real short pixie when I had Dorothy Hamill haircut. So I didn't do a lot of the, you know, stuff like that. But anyway, I hope everybody survived the wind. right? I know. It was crazy. There was some damage here in our neighborhood. We lost two fence panels out back. One of our neighbors, a huge branch fell off their tree and came down and in the back corner of our garden. It hit two of the fence panels as it was coming down. So that's been discussed already. There's a discussion between neighbors, not us, but now there's a discussion between neighbors. Imagine that, as to who the tree belongs to. But Chewy said, don't even worry about it. You know, it's two fence panels and they need to be replaced. They're going to need to be replaced anyway at some point. So it's not a big deal. But one of the things that I did want to talk about tonight during our Loungey Live. Yeah, Fran, I'll send you pictures of it, Fran. Then down the street, Fran, I'll send you pictures of this too, Fran. Down the street, right? Because, you know, very old neighborhood, right? We've talked about this before. Very old neighborhood, very old trees. And you have to understand something. We've been here 22 years, a little over 22 years now. And the city takes care of the trees. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right. How cities take care of trees. So a lot of the trees are dead, right? They're dead. They've been eaten up by ants or worms or just poor maintenance. And a lot of them are like paper pulp inside. Do you know what I'm saying? So they're very weak. And down the street, right? A huge tree in somebody's front yard fell, roots and all, pulled right up out of the ground, fell across their driveway into the next neighbor's driveway, across the neighbor's car. So it smashed. It went right into the top of the car. So their car, and it took out their electricity. Yeah. Yeah, Fran. You know what comes down here, Fran, when it rains a lot? Pine trees. Because pine trees have very shallow roots. So like anything that's like a pine tree or an evergreen here, up here, they come down very quickly if the ground is too saturated. And that's something that Chewy said yesterday as we were coming home from Butler. He said it's a good thing that we didn't get any rain or anything prior to the wind, because if we had, there would have been a lot more come down than there was. But there's big branches and there's trees down. We went up and saw my father-in-law today, and a big tree came down, right, Tina? Do you guys have that problem up there too? It's your evergreens mostly that you need to worry about when the saturation, you know, in the ground, right? Because those roots are just at the surface. And we've got really tall ones, like really tall. And but we went up to see my father-in-law today because I wanted to put my own peepers on him, right? Happy Saturday, Margaret. Shallow roots, Mom. Shallow roots. And so we went up to see him, and he was telling us that it was windy up there too, right? And that half the town lost power yesterday. And after we took him out to lunch, we took a ride, and he showed us. You did? Hi, Karen with a star. How are you? You lost power from 2 to 5. Yeah, we didn't. We didn't. We did have a tree come down in the neighborhood. I was just telling all the hens that, and it fell across into another neighbor's driveway and right over their car. So their car is, and then our back fence, right? Our back fence, which is hilarious because, you know, Chewy was, because we were out, right? You're welcome. We were out, and Louise, you know, she was here, and she called Chewy, and she said, Dad, she said, Yes, 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 Fran. Yes. Did you, Mom? Yeah, that's crazy, Mom. Um, she called Chewy while we were out, and she said, Dad, she said, she said, a branch fell. She said a branch fell. And he said, okay. And she said, it sounded like a shotgun. She said she heard it crack. And then she looked out back, and that's when she saw it. So when we got home, Chewy went out back and took pictures, from our side and the other side. And then today, one of the neighbors approached him and said that they had tried to speak to another neighbor because they're not sure whose tree it is exactly, right? So there's that. But so it was crazy wind, and last night was even crazier, and it didn't stop till like 3 a.m. Was it loud up there, Karen with a star? Was your wind loud? Because it was so loud here. And as we're coming home through the city, right, we see the houses, and you can see strips of shingles that have come off the roofs of the houses as we were coming through the city. So crazy loud. I know, right? I did not enjoy it at all. I didn't enjoy it at all. But hopefully, crab apples. Ugh, I know. It's hard to sleep during a wind. It is. Yeah. Nothing's blooming up here yet. Nothing. Although I think I saw a daffodil in somebody's front garden as we were riding home today. I thought I saw a daffodil in one single daffodil as I was looking out the window. But hopefully in a couple weeks, friends. I was talking to a friend about this, and hopefully in a couple weeks, when March is over, right? Because March goes out like a lamb. Now there is a snowstorm, Karen with a star. There is a snowstorm coming our way. So it's going to go over Jody and Jen, and it's going to come across. So we might get some stuff. So be ready, you guys up north. Be ready, and check out Max, because he's got the deets on the whole thing. Now listen, I think I figured out my hook for the hen house. I certainly do. I need to start wearing hats for our lives. I do. Because our live on Wednesday got 25 thumbs up. Can you believe it? I was stunned. I mean, I was happy, right? But I was stunned. I think that's the most thumbs up we've ever gotten on this channel, right? And the only thing I've done different was I wore my villain hat. I certainly did. I know, Tina, right? Thank you, Karen with a star. So, but I think I need to start looking for hats, friends. Really? I mean, yeah, right? Yeah. Because I'm not going tits out. I'm not going tits out, friends. I mean, I might wear a tank top in the summertime, right? Just to show you my guns, right? But I'm not going tits out. But I'll wear a hat. I certainly will. Was it, Mom? I don't think it's flying around here much right now, Mom. But I'm quite sure it's coming. I certainly am quite sure it's coming. But yeah, so wear the hat, right, Tina? What are you saying, Tina? That's not very nice. I got you, sister. I got you. I'll wear the hat, and I'll, But what was I gonna say? Oh, I was watching. You all know that I love Tucker, right? And I was watching. I know. You all know that I like to watch Tucker, right? And I understand that there's some of you that don't, right? Right, Fran? I know. I know. Um, but Fran, I got to be careful how I accessorize the hat because I don't want to look like some feminazi at Lollapalooza, right? So I got to be careful. Not sorry, not a safe space. So I got to be careful how I do it, right? Because I don't want to end up looking like, you know, right. Um, Tucker made a really good point. He was talking to, I think he was talking to Brett Weinstein. And, I've said this before, right? You're not going to go to a dentist that has a mouth full of rotting teeth, right? You're not. And you're not going to go to a hairdresser that has a rat's nest for hair, right? You're not. And you're not going to go to a dietitian, or I would hope that you wouldn't go to a dietitian that weighs 400 pounds. I'm not being ugly, I'm just being honest, and I'm not sorry, right? Right. And you're not going to go to a manicurist, right? That's got nails bit down to the nubs, right? You're not going to do that. Of course, those poor women, right, Mom, right, right. And you're not going to take marriage counseling from a man who takes a vow of celibacy, and you're not going to take marriage counseling from somebody that has been divorced numerous times or divorced at all. I wouldn't take marriage advice from somebody who's been divorced. And I'm not sorry to say that. Okay. It may not have been your fault, but I'm not taking your advice. Just saying. And I'm not saying that the divorce would be your fault. I'm just saying I wouldn't take that advice, right? Because the advice that you want to take when you are looking for advice, you want to look at for advice from somebody who has been successful in the area that you want the advice in, right? That's what I'm saying, I think. And so he's, that's basically what he said, right? And I got to thinking, there are so many people, and I'm a big person, I'm a big one on practice what you preach, right? If you're going to walk the walk, you better talk the talk, right? Right. And I'm a big one on making sure that you do that. And the recommendations and the suggestions and the tips and the advice that I offer you all, it comes from a place that I know because I've done it, right? Or I'm doing it, or it's worked in the past and I'm passing it on to you all, right? And for instance, right, the fence, right? That is a perfect example of why you have an emergency fund. Okay. Now, we don't live in an HOA. We don't. And I never would live in an HOA. And I wouldn't move into a community that has an HOA and then bitch and complain and moan about the HOA, knowing full damn well when I moved in that there was an HOA. Okay. An HOA is the government's way of controlling you. That's government way of controlling you. Okay. And I'm not going to have some rickety old diaper wearing bitch come up to my door and tell me that I can't park a dually in my driveway if that's the car that we drive, right? That ain't happening. And you're smoking dope if you think I'm turning any of Chewy's hard-earned money over, to some ricketies that are going around in the neighborhood with a clipboard, telling me how my house should look. Okay. That ain't happening. Okay. So, I watch a lot of prepping videos, and I've always told you all, right? Or I've told you, listen to me. I've always suggested to you all that when you're looking at prepping videos, or if you're interested in starting to prep, right? That you watch the preppers that are on the level that you're on or on the level that you're going up to. So if you're a beginner prepper, you're not going to watch a high level prepper, right? Because that's going to be too overwhelming for you. If you're starting at the bottom of the ladder, you want to start with the beginning preppers and then move your way up, right? And there are a lot of preppers or people that claim to be preppers that I think are total frauds. I think they're total frauds. They'll preach prep to you. They'll preach prep. They'll preach financial security, and they'll preach organization and keeping everything in order and all this kind of stuff. And just by watching and looking that their life is a hot damn mess, right? A hot damn mess, right? We've talked about this, friends. We've talked about this. And, as things occur in the world, right? As things occur in the world, prices will go up, right? They're not coming down, friends. We're not living in the 90s anymore. We're not living in the early 2000s anymore, right? They're not coming down. They may steady out, but they're not coming down, right? And now's the time to budget, right? If you need to budget, now's the time to budget. And if you've been preaching budgeting for years and you haven't budgeted all those years, right? Then we know, because you're bitching and complaining and moaning and groaning about trying to make ends meet now. And if you were practicing what you have been preaching, you wouldn't be doing that. You would be assuring people, right? But that doom and that fear, right, brings people in so you can all bond together in your misery, right? And I'm not that at all, right? I'm not that at all. If you're having trouble meeting financial budgets, then you need to start cutting the fat, sisters. You certainly do. Not literally, figuratively, okay? You need to drop your subscription boxes, right? How many damn tubes of mascara do you need, right? You only got 2 eyes, right? So, that's the way I do it. But I'm just saying, I said a whole lot of that to say that, like, the fence situation that we have out back would be a perfect example of why you should have an emergency fund, right? Because if we were to live in an HOA community, right, that would need to be fixed immediately, and it wouldn't be the HOA coming out to fix it, right? And if we didn't fix it within a timely manner, we would start getting fined, right? Because that's what them bitches do. They fine you, right? So, and the dollar a day savings, which everybody poo-poos on it. But if you've been saving the dollar a day for as many years as it has been a thing here at Lilleybugglane, right, then that would be your emergency fund. The dollar a day from all the years that we've been saving is what you would be pulling on right now to fill up your gas tank, because you drive a gas guzzler, or go out for pizza once a week with your family if that's what you want to do. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's very, very important, if to have money put aside, an emergency vet visit, right? A broken hot water heater, right? A flat tire on your car, right? damaged fence from wind, right? Missing shingles, right? Down tree, right? I mean, these are like things that are kind of weather preparedness things, but it's part of prepping is you have to like think in your head as to every situation that you could possibly think of and how you would deal with those situations, right? But just be aware that it's important to keep money aside. And I Dave Ramsey, I like Dave Ramsey, and I love the snowball, that snowball method that he has for paying down debt. We know quite a few people that have done that, and it's very, very successful, and it's very, very easy to do. The snowball method for Dave Ramsey. But he would always say, right? He would always say, beans and rice, rice and beans, right? Well, of course, friends, everybody takes everything so literally, right? And they think that every time something is said, it's directly to you or me, right? Directly to you or me. But we know, right, because we're smart hens, that when somebody says you need to tighten your belt and it's rice and beans, beans and rice, right? That's not like literally unless you want it to be literally, right? How far are you willing to sacrifice, or how much are you willing to sacrifice to get to your goals of what you're going to do, right? And if it's not going out to eat, then it's not going out to eat. If it's going out to eat once a week, then it's going out to eat once a week. And you budget that, you budget it in, and you don't do a bunch of impulse stuff, right? And you teach your children that, there are no snacks between meals because, right. Right. Well, I mean, he says a lot of stuff, Mom, but I'm talking about, you know, it's really funny to me to hear people say things, you know, like to suggest to you all, right? Rice and beans, beans and rice. Okay. What he's saying is cook at home, cook simple meals at home, right? And don't, food that your family will eat, right? And I mean, if you're, and the nickels and the dimes and the quarters add up, friends. You may think it's oh Lord, oh la la, it was just $1.25. That little box of Little Debbie cakes was just $1.25. Well, $1.25 could get you a bunch of bananas, friends. Right? I'm just saying. Right? And I'm sounding preachy, and I'm not. I mean, whatever. I don't really, I don't really care. But my thing is, right? And we all know this because I think we're all of the generation, right? When back in the 80s, you know, we all, everybody was kind of on the same thing where, we all kind of ate at home. We all kind of, we got school closed when school started. We didn't get a bunch of shit in between holidays. Yeah, Fran. Do you understand what I'm saying though? And I think that, people want to what do you call it? Project, right? People want to project a certain I don't know. I just think that if you're going to get on a video and tell your friends or your community or your subscribers, you're going to give them advice and all this kind of stuff. Exactly, Tina. Exactly. Exactly. I remember very vividly, okay, and my mother will attest to this, okay? Don't be inappropriate, Mom. I can remember very vividly. I was a child. I would have been maybe under 10, maybe between 7 and 10 years old. I can remember we would be sitting at the dinner table, right? We'd be sitting at the dinner table, and my mother would say to my dad, Friendlys. And she would spell it, right? And, you know, I didn't catch on right away, but that was kind of my mom's way of saying to my dad, hey, let's go to Friendly's for ice cream, right? And it wasn't an all the time thing. It wasn't an all the time thing, but that is a very vivid memory of mine as a child, like a certain time frame in my life where my mom would do that. She would spell out Friendly's, and, then we'd finish dinner and everything. And then, my dad or my mom would say, hey, let's take a ride. Let's go take a ride in the car. Cause that was entertainment back in the day. We all remember that, right? We would take a Sunday drive. We would take a Sunday walk. If we were in the city, you would go to the park, Fran, or whatever, but we would take a drive and we'd end up at Friendly's, right? And as a child, I didn't associate what my mom was spelling at the dinner table as a clue to my father that, hey, let's go have a treat of the ice cream, right? And we'd get those 1 scoop sundaes that they used to sell at Friendly's, right? And it was a big deal for my sister and I, because it was fun to go sit in the booth at Friendly's. That's when Friendly's was a thing, friends. And that was something, but it wasn't an often thing. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't an often thing. And we had basic meals that my mother would fix on certain days or for certain occasions and things like that. And that's what we do. Hi, how are you? JK, thank you for coming in. It's nice to meet you. Happy Saturday to you. And that's what we do here at Lilleybugglane. We have basic meals that I do for fall and winter. You all know that. And then I have meals, we switch over to our spring and summer menu. And you all know that I do that too. And it's basic, but there's variations of those things, right? So we're not always eating the same thing, right? And that's a way that we, save money and stuff. Shopping the thrift, right? I don't buy a lot of extra stuff. I don't buy a lot of extras, and I shop ahead for things, right? I shop ahead for things. I'm always keeping things in my mind. I don't go out. I don't go out and about all over the place. Now, I don't have to shuttle littles to and from school. I don't have to do that, right? But I did back in the day. But that was before the gas went up and things like that. And, but you just kind of have to, know, right? You have to know what level your finances are at, right? And be at be below or at your finance level. You can't live above your finance level right now, because you're going to be in very deep trouble very, very quickly, right? I mean, you may have champagne taste, but you've got a beer budget, right? You do. And you need to like be on old Milwaukee budget, right? You can't even be on Coors budget. You got to be on old Milwaukee budget, right? Because you want to be below. But just, try and make sure and encourage your children, right? Say adult children. That is such an oxymoron, isn't it? I've talked this over with some of our hens. I can't stand to say adult children. I can't, it's such a, you know what I mean? It's so like, to me, right? It doesn't make any sense. Although it does. Today, in today's world, it does. But just encourage younger people that you know, right, to tuck a little bit away, right? And if you don't buy those little Debbie cakes, right, at the Dollar Tree, then there's $1.25 that you can put in a jar, right? And those $1.25s add up. They certainly do. And if you buy your cards at the Dollar Tree, although let me tell you this, okay? Walmart's cards are cheaper than the Dollar Tree. They've got the 98-cent cards. They certainly do. And now they've got the cards that are like 2 for $3 and 2 for $4, because we were just up at my father-in-law's Walmart today and I saw them. So I think Walmart's catching on to the Dollar Tree thing. Well, legally, see, Mom, I don't consider you an adult until you're 21, right? And if you want to call yourself an adult, then you're going to be treated like an adult and you better act like an adult, right? And, it's weird to me. That's a weird topic to try and mesh through. It is. Because at 18, you can join the military and go off and fight for the country and, all that entails, right? Yeah, Fran. Yeah. They have the 2 for $1, and then they have like the 125 ones, Fran, because some of them went up to 125. But they still have those ones that are 2 for $1, Fran. But they're the real small cards. But anyway, I just want to encourage everyone, right? And we all know this. And I think that because of the generation that we're in, which is hilarious because I've told you all before that there are a lot of Gen X cards that I would revoke, right? I would revoke them. I certainly would, because I don't know how you made it as far as you did being a Gen Xer, right? Because you act like a millennial. There are a lot of people that act like millennials that are in the Gen X, era, right? And remember we talked about when you're born in the generation, like Chewy and I were born at the very beginning of Gen X, the first of Gen X, right? But then you've got the ones that are born at the tail end of the Gen X. Yes. Well, I think, Fran, too, I'll tell you what scares a lot of people. Want or need. That is an exercise that a lot of people will not participate in. A want or a need. And I've gone back. I don't know if you all remember or not, but do you remember the no buy 2025? How everybody was jumping on that no buy 2025 train? Well, I went back to a couple of people, right, that I had watched. They didn't no buy in 2025. They didn't. You cannot go from spending willy-nilly to no buy. You can't do it. And again, that's where people think their lives are a platter when they're really a saucer, right? That's what that is, right? But, you just have to be very, very aware of what you're spending and looking at the quality of what you're spending, right? And is it going to last, right? I had to laugh. Now, we haven't gotten the new yet. 1972 is still here. Not 71, 72. She's still here. Okay, she's still here because I told you I'm waiting for the weather to break, right? And so I went and visited a channel, right? And her washer and her washer broke. And she said she's had it for like 10 years and it's been nothing but a problem. The entire 10 years they've had it, it's been nothing but a problem. And it was one of the, all the bells and whistles. It was like a Samsung or something like that, which why would you ever buy a Samsung washer or dryer? Samsung isn't known for washers and dryers. Samsungs are known for radios and TVs. I mean, right? Whirlpool, GE, the Roper, those kinds of things, Maytag, those are known for washers and dryers. I wouldn't buy a Maytag TV because Maytags don't make TVs, right? Maytag makes appliances, kitchen appliances, right? You don't go to a podiatrist to get your teeth pulled. That's what I'm saying, friends, right? So I just, popped in to visit with her and watched a video, and she was getting, because their washer had just totally died, and I don't know how much money they had put in it, replacing like the motherboards and the heating elements. She said they had to have like 4 heating elements put in it or something. And she says, I'm getting the very basic, no bells, no whistles, no nothing. So then she shows her new washer and dryer. That thing was dinging and chiming and, boo-doo-doo, 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 all kinds of stuff. Those are bells and whistles to me, friends. Wait till you see Miss Hot Point when she comes in here. Wait till you see how basic that is, friends. And then you'll know when I say basic, I mean basic. I don't want anything digital. I don't want any kind of motherboard. I don't want any kind of Wi-Fi, smart, nothing in there, right? Right? I don't want any kind of that stuff, right? When I say no bells and whistles, I mean no bells and whistles, right? The most basic thing. That way the least amount of things go. Exactly, Tina. Exactly. And when she showed her new washer and dryer, and I was like, I thought you said it wasn't anything special. There were no bells and whistles or anything to it. But there were, friends. There were. And I was like, oh, really? You're not being true. You're not being true. Can I tell you something? I think I forgot to do my eyebrows today. Now that I'm looking, oh no, I didn't. I did them. It's the shadow on my glasses, right? That's crazy. Well, the motherboard, Mom, runs everything, and the motherboard is what sends your data out to be collected so that they know your routines in your household and stuff like that. So, but just, friends, we all know this, and it's just been something that, you all know how I feel about, if you're gonna walk the walk, you better talk the talk, right? And like about the cucumber water, right? I drink it exclusively. The $1 a day. We've been doing it for how many years here at Lilleybugglane, right? Making the bed every single day. That's the easiest thing you can do. It's a great start to your day. It sets your day. It's the easiest thing. If you are trying to get your life in order, the best thing you can do, the first thing you can do is start to make your bed every day, right? Brush your damn hair, right? Care a little bit. And caring a little bit is brushing your hair. You know what I mean? It's just little things, right? And, I've lived a life, right? And I've seen a lot of people that have tried to reshape their lives, and they try and do too much at one time, and they become so overwhelmed that they can't even do it, right? And you need to know to start small and build off those small successes, right? So that you start to feel good. Yeah. So I've watched people do their wash with the washboards in a wash basin outside. That would be interesting. That would be a very interesting, or in the bathtub. In the bathtub, they'll do their wash in the bathtub. I mean, that's how they used to do it back in the day, friends. That's certainly how they used to do it back in the day, right? They did. And they, their clothes looked real nice and they were clean and, all that kind of stuff. And, but, you don't need all the fancy bells and whistles and things like that. And just like Tina said, with all those fancy bells and whistles, more things can just go wrong. And um, I don't want to have to, worry about that stuff. And if if we're going to spend Chewy's money on it, right? He works hard for the money, right? And I don't want to get something that's going to break and then it's not even worth fixing because, replacing the motherboard is just as expensive as getting a new one, a new washer or a new dryer. Do you know what I mean? If you've never checked out the videos on YouTube with the vintage washers and dryers that people refurbish and then they show them going through the cycles and stuff, you should do that. That's really relaxing to watch. An old school washer and dryer, right? Watching it go through its paces and stuff. That's really cool. And I guess back in the day, everybody had their washers and dryers in the garages. Back in the 50s and 60s, their washers and dryers were in their garages. They weren't in the houses. Can I tell you something? I would never put my washer and dryer on the top floor of my house. Could you imagine? No, they don't, Fran. They don't. You should go watch them, Fran. They're so fabulous, these old videos where people restore old appliances and then they show you how they worked. It's just so fabulous, Fran. It is. But can I tell you, like these new builds that they're doing where they're putting the washers and the dryers upstairs where the bedrooms are, right? Because God forbid you should have to take 5 steps, right? Or, and they're putting the washers and dryers like on the second floor where the bedrooms are and stuff because it's more convenient. Yeah, it's more convenient until your water line to your washer breaks and floods your entire upstairs and then goes through the ceilings and then floods your entire main level, right? I know, Tina, right? Could you imagine that, Tina? I mean, that is just the scariest thing. Ours is down in the basement, so we don't have to worry about it. But I would never have a washer and dryer on the upper level where if it was to leak or something was to go wrong, it would just be coming down through the ceiling. I mean, no way. But so friends, the middle of March, right? The middle of March. And in a couple of weeks, it's going to be April and we're all the new year, right? The new year. And I'm just so excited. You all know that I look at April 1st as the first of the year for me. I like to I've been doing a little bit of research on the 13-month calendar and just how they did it back in the day and everything. And it makes so much more sense than this ridiculousness does now. But I'm excited. And for the everything to start turning green again and the sun, right? The sun to get its warmth back, right? I know a lot of you experienced some really warm weather. I was really jealous, right? We had a couple nice days last week. They were mild, but they weren't hot. but you could feel the sun was getting its warmth back, right? You could feel the sun. Oh, I'll show you. I picked up my sunscreen at Sam's. I certainly did. Got my sunscreen for the season. Coconut oil. It's what I used last year, friends. This is exactly what I used last summer. Got another one for this year. So that's what I'm using. That's what I'm using. So, because I'm not using any kind of sunscreen anymore. So, or any kind of nothing, no SPF, nothing with an SPF in it. So UV rays are good for you. They are needed for cellular renewal and cellular repair in your body. It helps with your circadian rhythm. It does. Yeah, right, Fran? I know, Fran. I know, right? I know, because you had it one day, didn't you? And I think my sister and my mom did too, because it was like 85. And then the next day for them, it was like snowing, right? We haven't had like a really warm day. I mean, I'll open the windows here if it's in the high 50s for the kitty cats and to get some air exchange and everything. But we haven't had like a day when we've turned on the air conditioner. You've never used sunscreen. Good for you, Fran. Good for you. Good for you. Look back at the 70s, Fran. They didn't have it back then. They had copper tone, but there was no SPF in the copper tone back in the day. And then it started. And I would be very interested. I'd have to do a little bit of research. I'd be very interested to see the correlation between when the SPF went into the sunscreen and skin cancer went up, right? I know. I'd be very, very interested. And I don't wear sunglasses anymore either. I will when I'm driving sometimes for the glare. But if I'm outside now and stuff, I don't wear sunglasses anymore. And I noticed a huge difference when I stopped wearing them. So, right, Fran? Yeah. I remember doing that, Mom, when we lived. I remember doing that. Yep. Look at them, Fran, back in the 70s. The videos from back in the 70s. Look at them. They all were nice and tan, weren't they? They certainly were. But I don't think they were doing, spraying the stuff back in the 70s that they're spraying now. So, the reflecting stuff and, the seeding and stuff like that. But yeah. So this is my sunscreen right here, friends. This is what I'll be using. And I just build myself up. I start out 15 minutes outside very consistently, and then go to 30 minutes, and then go to 45 minutes, and then, that's how I do it. But that's what I used last year. That's what I'm using this year. So there you go. And remember, the last time I went to the dermatologist was the first time she didn't need to burn or freeze anything off of me, right? Was when I went this past time. So I call that a win, friends. I call that a win. Right? So, but I've noticed there's this big thing, and I want you all to pay attention, because now that the beach stuff and the summer stuff and the hot weather stuff is coming out, all the sunglasses I'm seeing are polarized. They're polarized sunglasses. Nah, friends. Not good for you. Not good. You need to let that sunlight in. You can wear a hat, right? You can wear a hat and that'll shade your eyes, right? And protect your face. If you don't want to get any color or, anything on your face, but you should let the sunlight into your eyes. You should. It was very rare when I was young. It was very rare to see people wearing glasses. It was very rare. And now you see everybody wears glasses. These are readers, friends. These are readers. And that's just because, when you get older, you need readers. And I have glasses here that I wear, driving and, things like that. But, so just, make sure that, I know we all know this. We all know this and, budgeting and, things like that. We've been doing this for a long time. Yes, Mom, we know you were born with glasses on. I said it was rare, Mom. It was rare. It was very rare. It was very rare. I mean, go back and look, Mom. I mean, you were special back then because you had glasses. Now it's special if you don't wear glasses, right? That's what's special now, right? Because remember back when we were kids, right? And you're not in my generation, Mom. But back when we were kids, right? It was, you were special if you wore glasses, right? You were like the cool kid, right? You need 3.0 readers, Fran. I'm at 275 right now. Well, I'm between 2.5 and 275. I'm kind of going in between, but I don't want to make that leap to 275 quite yet. I can still do 2.5s, Fran, because I don't want to go too far too fast, right? Because I think you're only at a certain amount, right? So I think they only go up to a certain height or a certain strength, a certain height. Right? I know. Tina, you're a 2.5? That's what these are, Tina. These are a 2.5. Yeah. I think Chewy's at a 2. Maybe a 2 2.25. I think that's what he's at. He might be at 2.5. I can always tell, though, when he needs to go up. He won't say it. I always tell. You're using a 2.5 now, Fran? Yeah. Yeah. I try to pace myself as to how quickly I'll go up. Do you know what I mean? Because I have two 2.75s, but if I put them on, things look a little distorted. Do you know what I'm talking about? So I know I'm not quite to 2.75 yet. But if I wear these now in the evening times and stuff, I can see that, I need to pull things away from me to see them better. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think I'm in between a 2.5 and a 2.75. I might be like a 2.6, 2.65. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I just wanted to get together, friends, and just, we know what to do, right? We're matrons and we're, old hens, and we know what to do, and we're not going to panic. And, if we have to, tighten the belt a little bit, we don't have a problem doing it because we're Gen Xers. Most of us are. My mother's not. She's a generation ahead of us, friends. She's a boomer. So, but, we all know what to do, right? And, oh, okay. But, let's just make sure that we encourage the maidens and the maids, right? And our younger gentlemen too. Oh, oh, really, Fran? So your bottom is the reader and the top is normal? Is that what you're talking about? As a bifocal? Is there a line in it, Fran, or is it just a progressive where you can't tell the difference? I tried to do reader sunglasses a few years ago. Oh my gosh, I did not like it at all. I did not like it at all. So, not at all. But anyway, friends, thank you all for joining me for a little while tonight. I'm glad we got to get together. You all know I like to get together between our Wednesdays, right? So that we can check in with each other and just kind of touch base and everything and see how everybody's doing. But I appreciate you spending this time with me this evening. I hope that you have a great rest of the weekend. I certainly do. St. Patrick's Day, right, is on Tuesday, and we will be together on Wednesday for our circle time on Wednesday. So everybody have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing my Rachel Zoe sweater, and I have on my Irish green velvet headband today because we went up to see my father-in-law for the day. So I figured I better wear it, right? I'll wear it on Tuesday although we don't go anywhere on Tuesday. So there we go. But I hope everybody has a wonderful day on Tuesday and a great start to the week. There will be a video that comes out on Monday, as usual, here at Lilleybugglane. So make sure your notification bell is on for that. If you're watching this on the replay, feel free to leave a comment. We love hearing from you, friends. We certainly do. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up on your way out. I would love for this video to get 10 thumbs up. I certainly would. And I'm going to be on the hunt, friends, for some hats. I certainly am. Because now I think I figured it out, right? I think I figured it out. So, are we ready, friends? I think we're ready. I hope you are happy. I hope you're happy and find lots of glimmers in your days, friends. I hope you're healthy. Take your zinc every day. It is up to us, friends. Let's all say, Fran, I will. Let's all say it together. Healthy people are not profitable. And we all know that to be true, friends. And I hope you're safe. I certainly do. Know the weather in your area so you can be prepared and not scared. Check out Max Velocity on YouTube to know the weather that is expected in your area, friends. I think of you all often. You are never far in my thoughts, friends. And we will be together again soon. Have a great rest of the night and a great rest of the weekend.